Borderlands is back, but this time we're not in Pandora. I'm a big fan of the Borderlands series and have been since the first game released back in 2009, with Borderlands 2 being one of my favorite games of all time. So when a new Borderlands game was announced, I knew I'd had to set some time aside to play it, and I have now had the chance to play the latest game in the series, Borderlands 4. Developed by Gearbox Software and published by 2K Games on September 11th, 2025, we are introduced to the new world of Kairos. A world that used to be hidden, that the only way of finding it was by accident. A world controlled by a tyrant known as the Timekeeper that made the planet a prison that no one could leave. But due to the events of Borderlands 3, the barrier that once protected this planet is destroyed by the moon of Pandora when it appears in the planet's orbit, bringing the once hidden world holding a mysterious vault to the attention of the universe. Bringing 4 new Vault Hunters to the planet with Vex, Rafa, Harlow, and Eamon, who you can choose to play as. Like previous entries in the Borderlands series, while the story may be connected to the past games, this one also acts as its own self-contained story, meaning you can jump right into it without having played the previous games and still be able to follow along. There's just some references and characters that people who played the previous games will recognize that new players just won't have that connection to. But it shouldn't hamper your ability to enjoy the game if you're a new player to the series. But people who have played past entries in the Borderlands series will be familiar with the gameplay of Borderlands 4. Once you take control of the Vault Hunter, you have the ability to hold and use up to 4 weapons at a time, with weapons having random stats you can get from enemy drops, storage containers, or given as rewards for missions. Each weapon has its own stats that determine its damage, reload speed, magazine size, and effects, as well as manufacturer traits, which give guns of those varieties general features, like the new Order weapons, which allow you to charge up the weapon and fire it in a single burst. Or the Jacobs, which is a staple of the Borderlands series that features high damage and ricocheting bullets to hit other enemies nearby. The types of guns you'll find across Kairos are all random, and you can choose whichever best fit your playstyle. The weapon system in Borderlands has always been one of its crown features, with each kind of weapon having its place to use as you come across the range of different enemies and bosses in the game. As you progress in the game, you can choose to do story missions, complete side missions, search the map for hidden treasures, or complete bounty missions. There is a lot you can do in Borderlands 4, which a lot of it will be familiar to fans of the franchise. What will be new, though, is the fact that Kairos, the planet of Borderlands 4, is open world, where the entire map and its enemies will get stronger to match your level as you level up, meaning you can go to any part of the map whenever you choose to and don't have to follow a single laid out path. You're given 3 goals in the overworld to complete and told you can do them in any order you choose. This is a great change to the Borderlands formula, especially with the way Kairos is mapped out. Each area of the map is controlled by a different leader of the planet, given power by the Timekeeper, and as such, each section of the map feels unique from the others, but still hitting the normal biome types of forests, deserts, snowy mountains with their own unique enemies and wildlife for each area. What stands out the most, though, is you can travel across these different biomes without any load screens, watching the landscape shift as you cross the line into a different one. There are very few load screens overall with Borderlands 4. Most of them have been hidden by cutscenes, and this one change somehow makes Borderlands 4 feel so much bigger than previous entries in the series. When I first heard that Borderlands 4 was moving to a single planet map again, I was a bit disappointed as I was a fan of the planet hopping that was introduced in Borderlands 3. But after playing Borderlands 4 and seeing what they could do with this map style, I can say it was the right move. But in order to easily traverse such a large map, there are some other new additions to the game. In previous Borderlands games, in order to summon a vehicle, you had to find a specific location on the map to spawn it. In Borderlands 4, however, you can summon a Digi-Runner from anywhere on the map that acts as a hover cycle to quickly move around the map. This small change makes going across the massive map feel so much easier, and it by far is the best new feature of the Borderlands series in my opinion. But that's not all, as Borderlands 4 also added a new glide feature that lets you float in the air for a bit, which can be mixed with a grapple to reach high ledges and float across large gaps in the terrain. Gearbox really pulled this one off, listening to players that complained about the lack of these features in previous games that made moving around planets feel clunky and slow. And as a longtime player of Borderlands, these changes are very welcome. I have to say I hope they don't revert any of them for future games. With these new changes, I had a lot of fun playing Borderlands 4. The map is filled with different things to do and explore. Just take a look at all the different activities in this small section of the map alone. You can take over safe houses to use as fast travel points, find weapon caches that you can bring to a safe house to get some new weapons, find Vault Hunter markers that can be used to unlock storage upgrades for your ammo and backpack, or look for vault keys that can unlock one of the vaults hidden across the map. While playing the game, I clocked in just a little bit under 40 hours before finishing it, and there's still so much on the map left for me to do. This game is massive and has so much you can do or decide not to do entirely. It's honestly probably one of the best Borderlands games out there, but it still has some faults. First off, the main villain of the Timekeeper, who, while daunting and has a great backstory behind him, is just kind of boring. He is always spoken of as this massive power that no one can stand up to. But beyond the technology that allows him to control people through the bolts he attaches to the citizens of the planet he captures, he really doesn't come off as daunting at all during the main game. Which is crazy because during the final parts of the game, you learn more about him and how powerful he is. It would have been nice to see this during the game while going against the other bosses, who honestly felt more powerful than him. Probably due to the fact that the other bosses have a much bigger presence in the overall world. Like the Ripper Queen, who was a subject of the Timekeeper and one of his trusted rulers of Kairos. She ripped out her bolt and leads an army of others who have gone crazy by doing so. As you go through her area of the map, she taunts you and acts a lot more directly with the player as you progress through that part of the story, making her feel like an actual threat in the story as it progresses. Unlike the Timekeeper, who will just sometimes speak to you through the bolt in your head to say you are surprising him with how far you're getting, and that's it. He really didn't feel like the final boss of the game or the big bad. Which is a shame, because if bits of the lore behind him were sprinkled throughout the game instead of just before and during the climactic battle with him, he might have felt a little bit more daunting of a threat throughout the game. The game is essentially separated into 4 different stories. 3 of them are for each section of Kairos with its own leader and biome. Then the final one when the 3 leaders are defeated and you go up against the Timekeeper himself. And up until that last part of the story, the game just feels a little bit disconnected. And I get that the idea is you can do any part of the story as you want and don't have to do them in a certain order, but it would have been nice if the rulers made reference to you taking down another as you progress, or seeing some kind of change in their attitude as they're the final one standing. Instead, they each treat you like you're barely a threat up until you're in their face. Which, for every part of the story you decide to do last, it shouldn't be a surprise to them by the time you're there when you've already taken out 2 of the other leaders. It's one of the elements of the story that I think could definitely be improved on in the future Borderlands games if they go with a similar structure. But bigger than that, and probably the biggest disappointment with this game, is its performance. I played Borderlands 4 on the PlayStation 5, and while it ran fine most of the time, there would be very odd glitches I would run into. There would be times where a mission wouldn't complete and I would have to stop the game, start it back up, and then go back and see if it would let me finish it. And I even experienced a crash during one of the major cutscenes in the game that just kind of stopped before getting the iconic PlayStation error screen. But while the game ran fine for the most part on my playthrough on the PlayStation 5, I also started it a little bit later after the game had first released and a few updates and patches had come out. But it still doesn't excuse the fact that the game released in that kind of state where the fix from Gearbox themselves was to stop the game and restart it when you run into issues. This is still frustrating to a lot of people on PC who are still reporting gameplay breaking glitches and terrible frame rates on newer hardware up until the time of writing this review. Hopefully by the time this video is uploaded or you're watching it, these are fixed. But it is something that can ruin your experience while playing this game. But I'm really hoping that in the future, this won't be a concern anymore. But even with all that said, Borderlands is still a really fun game and a welcome addition to the franchise. Overall, I give Borderlands 4 a 4 out of 5. Borderlands 4 adds a lot of great features to the series, like the new ways to traverse with the new glide, grapple, and vehicle options, making traveling the large map feel so fluid. And it made me want to explore more of the map just because it was so fun. And with there being so much content around the map to find, there's no reason not to spend hours just exploring around. Even with almost 40 hours in this game, I still feel like I barely scratched the surface of all the side missions, bounties, collectibles, and everything else hidden around the map. This is truly one of the biggest Borderlands games we've ever gotten, and it feels like it. Made even better by the open world map that you can travel around without any load screens or transitions to bring you from one point to the other. You can quite literally ride around the entire map without having to see a single loading screen beyond the game's boot up. But that might not be advisable to do, at least right now, as there are some performance issues with the game. Even with me playing the game in bursts of a couple hours, there were times I had to stop the game and restart it due to issues with missions or enemies not spawning. But I am hopeful that eventually Gearbox will fix all these kinds of issues and make the game perform as they envisioned it. Because when it was working, it was some of the most fun I've had with the series in a long time. And while the main boss might not feel very special while playing the game, the different rulers of the worlds fill in that gap perfectly, and truly feel like the threats they should be. This is one game that I intend to continue playing and exploring even past this review, which goes to show just how much I did enjoy the game. But let us know what your thoughts are on Borderlands 4. Have you played the game or intend to? I'm curious to know what you think of the game and whether you agree with me or not. And if you like this review and want to see more, click that like button and don't forget to subscribe. If you have suggestions for other games you think we should play, let us know as well. Until next time, this has been Brad with the Bickering Nerds.